Greetings from California, still a mythical place to many. It was the 31st state to join the Union, which it did on September 9, 1850. With 36 million residents, it's #1 in population and growing fast.
Projections are that we'll add the population equivalent of the state of Texas to California over the next 25 years.
California's population isn't just getting larger, it's getting more complex. No other state, in fact, no other country, has the range of racial and ethnic diversity found in California. 1 in every 4 residents was born in another country. The state is home to 30% of all Latinos in the U.S., 40% of all Asians and Pacific Islanders, and 16% of all Native Americans.
Multicultural stew.
Maybe it's the great weather, maybe it's the natural beauty, but California has always been a mecca for eccentric characters and alternate lifestyles. From nudists to vegetarians to religious prophets to political activists, if it's a new trend, it probably started in California. In 1948, it was a small motorcycle club that became a worldwide phenomenon called Hell's Angels. In 1967, the intersection of Haight and Ashbury in San Francisco became ground zero for free-spirited hippies during the legendary Summer of Love.
Somehow California attracts people who don't always fit in elsewhere, but somehow find a place in California to reinvent themselves, to live in a way that might not be tolerated in other places.
San Francisco's gay community multiplied during World War II, when the military dishonorably discharged homosexuals and processed them at San Francisco bases. When the war ended, California experienced a massive population boom.
California in general became associated with the new car-based lifestyle. California, because of its size and influence, has more vehicle miles of travel than any other state. The major cities in California are consistently ranked as the most congested in the country. And those are in particular the Los Angeles metropolitan area and the San Francisco Bay Area.
Automobiles have inspired a lot of firsts in California. The first motel, envisioned in 1925 as the beginning of a chain that would line the coast a day's drive apart, like the Spanish missions built here in the 18th century. The hot rod was born in Southern California in the late 1930s. The desert salt flats east of Los Angeles were perfect for racing souped-up cars with stripped-down bodies. Then there's the very first McDonald's drive-in restaurant, opened in 1940. California's car culture, however, has contributed mightily to its pollution. The state ranks 10th worldwide in the emission of greenhouse gases.
What we've done, though, in California is had much more aggressive regulation of emissions on vehicles than any other state. Imagine Delaware or Wyoming saying, we're going to require different emission standards on new cars. Automakers would laugh at them. They'd say, okay, we won't sell cars in your state. California is such a big consumer. They have the clout to be able to push those kinds of things.
But there's more to California than its car culture. Much more. This is a state of natural extremes. The highest point in the continental U.S. is Mount Whitney at 14,494 feet. Just 100 miles down the road, you'll find the lowest spot, Death Valley, at 282 feet below sea level. California also has the world's tallest trees, the giant sequoias. The highest tops out at 379 feet, roughly equal to a 30-story building.
Redwoods are unbelievable. Unbelievable. You know, if anything is ever going to make you believe in a higher power, the redwoods might do it.
The sheer scale of California often draws comparisons to other nations rather than other states. If California were a country, it would have the 8th largest economy in the world. Its #1 industry, agriculture, generates gross sales of $32 billion per year. That's over 5 times the output of England. Half of all the fruits and vegetables consumed in the United States come from California. Broccoli, alfalfa, melons, dairy products. California leads the nation in the production of more than 80 agricultural commodities. For farming, this is truly the promised land, thanks to the rich terrain and fabulous weather.
You can grow so many different types of crops because we have so many different subclimates. We have humidity, we have dry, that's where dryland farming comes from.
A lot of those crops that are grown in California could not be grown here were it not for subsidized water without massive irrigation. Immense dam building projects that have made California what it is.
75% of the water supply originates in the state's northern third. while 80% is used in the southern two-thirds. In the 1940s, amid controversy and charges of corruption, California diverted millions of gallons of water from the Colorado River. As the need for water grew in the 1960s, the California Aqueduct was built, transferring water from the Sacramento River Delta to Southern California. Irrigation has helped make grapes the #1 cash crop in the state. 90% of America's national wine output comes from California. California is also the axis of the film and television industries, which contribute $38 billion annually to the state economy. The first studio moved from the East Coast to a sleepy village called Hollywood in 1911. This soon became the place where dreams are made. Once again, the weather and the terrain were key factors.
They were making Westerns and Indian pictures. Westerns was the main staple film that everyone wanted to see around the world. And by 1915, almost every major company out in New York had a branch in Los Angeles.
In the heart of Hollywood, you'll find a museum that is distinctly Californian. The theme? Celebrity lingerie.
Designed by Halle Berry, and I love it because I know that she was filming on Catwoman when she designed this piece.
Another California contribution to fashion is less glamorous, but perhaps more enduring. Blue jeans, created by Levi Strauss in 1873. His target market was the horde of miners and fortune seekers who had been pouring into California since the discovery of gold at Sutter's Mill.
For the people heading to California in search of gold, they really have an imperative to get there quickly because they are worried that if they don't get there quickly, someone else will get there first.
The 49ers, as the gold seekers were called, exploded the territory's non-native population from 14,000 to 250,000 in just 4 years.
This tremendous influx of people transforms California overnight from what is a recently conquered province to statehood almost instantaneously in 1850. The California gold rush transforms American expectations. Is hard work necessarily the road to riches, or is it about luck? Is it about lottery? One can't underestimate how powerful the sort of myth of California is on not just the American imagination, but on the world's imagination.
But this vision of California as an earthly paradise was badly shaken on April 18, 1906. Shortly after 5 a.m., a devastating earthquake rocked San Francisco to its core.
And so that is probably the biggest earthquake we know about in California.
Thousands of buildings were wrecked. Hundreds of people were killed. Electric power lines and gas mains were broken. Fires broke out and burned wildly for days. It was one of the most destructive earthquakes to ever strike California, largely because of San Francisco's proximity to the San Andreas Fault.
If you fly across central California and look out of the airplane, you see this big scar in the landscape, which is the San Andreas Fault. It's like a line you could almost draw with a ruler. It runs the length of the state, and it is what we believe the most likely place for the, in quotes, big ones.
California is going to have earthquakes. Other states have tornadoes and hurricanes. Some people can't live with it. After every big earthquake, a few thousand people leave.
Recent studies have concluded that the risk of a large earthquake on the southern portion of the San Andreas Fault may actually be higher than researchers had previously thought. A 7.0 trembler in this region could devastate Palm Springs, San Bernardino, and Riverside, and cause severe damage extending as far as Los Angeles and San Diego. While earthquake prediction is an inexact science, researchers are making progress at determining the probability of California's earthquakes.
The San Andreas Observatory at depth is a drill hole that is going to pierce the San Andreas Fault, and the objective here is to understand the friction on the fault. The next step is to put instruments into the observatory, and those instruments are going to run for a period of like 20 years.
These sensors will record tremors in the area, allowing scientists to study the physics of earthquakes and perhaps someday come to anticipate them. This impending threat hasn't stemmed the tide of new residents. Every day, more people flock to the Golden State in search of the California dream.
Look here, I'm talking about America, sweet America.